Hello there everybody and welcome! I got you a NAGA transformation build, a NAGA transformation and elemental summon build for the Mystics, which is absolutely bonkers. I am pretty much, well, playing around with my enemies at this point, and I'm very happy where this ended up. It is a late game oriented build, but due to the insane amounts of knowledge that it can produce, you'll be getting there fast. You'll have an elemental army that will carry you to the late game and beyond, and well, I am really happy where I ended up. So, let's get started with the racial and cultural traits. We're playing Mystics, so Arcane Focus was a must-have. I went for Keen Sighted as well because I like my battle mages to hit reliably. I also went for Swamp Adaptation because you have a lot of swampy thingies going on with the Stormborn Tome, but this build would work excellent with Arctic Adaptation as well because we do have all the ice magic included. I'll leave it up to you, but I really love this combination for the sake of my battle mages, which are for the Mystic Culture always an important thing. The elementals that we're summoning don't get any from or racial traits, therefore I've been quite happy with that combo. But I'd wager that Arctic Adaptation would be even a little bit more efficient than the Swamp Adaptation. Swamp Adaptation comes with the Riverwalk thing, which is powerful, really powerful. This is more than it looks like because you are moving way faster on the map, and I felt like it's very fitting for NAGA people. Now, here I went for Mana Channelers, obviously so good for any summoning orient build, don't need to add in anything extra to that, and Druidic Terraformers because if you have unlocked it, it's a really cool thing to pick. Gain a lowered upkeep for elemental units. This is the first and foremost point about this trait. But the extra effects for the cities are also pretty nice because it generally means every city gets a flat out bonus, and if we are rocking the world around ice, this is also a very nice bonus. You can easily exchange that with Seafarers. This is the other thing that I really felt tempted to go for because it's really darn good here as well. But Druidic Terraformers, it's fun with this build. Okay, let's get a glimpse of our tomes. I'm working here tier 1 with Evocation. Evocation offers us everything the Mystics would want. Since we are also a elemental focused build, we also gain lesser Storm Spirits. These guys are really cool shock units with the nifty caveat that they are harder to hit by ranged attacks. That's really good, and once they are grown up, they turn into tier 3 units, which are really powerful. I'm gonna feature them later. We also have access to the Evoker, a upgraded battle mage unit, so there's nothing to sneeze at here either. I didn't research them here because I didn't need them. For this build in particular, I went for the other battle mages, but more about that in a hot minute. Lightning Focus, well, yeah, just what we want. We gain Electrification, which is just a nice sustained damage. We gain a little bit of extra damage for our battle mages and supporters. There's just nothing to not want about that. And Lightning Blades is a 20% damage bonus for electrified enemies. We're going down this path because later we do have a tier 4 book which makes everything wet, so lightning damage is just amazing for us. Lightning Torrent, yeah, it's just more of the same, and we debuff the enemy's lightning resistance in the upcoming fight. That's a really powerful little thing. Prepare a spell or two of these before a war. Top-notch efficiency. We gain Channeling Towers. As mana-hungry as this build is, this is really good. And, of course, yeah, lightning weapons for heroes, enough said. Cryomancy, the other tome. Here we gain access to more juice for our melee units, which is really good because the second type of elementals that we pick up are also melee-oriented elementals. So, at this point, once you have this tome, your units will have really hard-hitting attacks, especially if the enemy is frozen and electrified, slowed or slowed and electrified. You will gain a whopping 40% increased damage of that. That's a lot. You will notice it, and that's pretty big synergy. You can skip pretty much the frost arrows. They will only apply to the snow spirits, and they have a very high cooldown ranged attack. They are among the skirmishers that are really not good at ranged attacks. They are really only shining at melee, but that's what they do really decently. Ice Coffin, good stuff. Crowd control tool, I love a 90% freezing chance. White Witches are what I opted into for this build because I love the freezing blast. You can decide for yourself, you can go White Witch and Evoker or it's up to you. You have a nice tier 2 battle mage roster to choose from with this build. Blizzard, well, it's basically more of the same shtick. We can here decrease the enemy's status resistance, which is a little bit different than the electrical torrent, but apart from that, it does the same as the other one. We are really good at nuking people from the world map with this build. Just want to point it out at that point. Cryomancy School, well, it's knowledge, and if we are going for Arctic adaptation, we can fully play this out. And yeah, we can move over to the next one. And that is, to no big surprise, the Tome of Summoning. It is pretty much the highest synergy that any elemental build can achieve in the tier 2 tome. I'm not over exaggerating, it's just that good. Pretty much every tool in here is massive. We can heal all our elementals battlefield wide, we can boost up one of them to an insanely powerful unit. There's no downside to this spell, except for its insane mana cost. There's Arcane Bond, which is really good as well, and there's the Astral Serpent, which is a really hard to kill fighter, which plays nicely into our roster as well if you want to go for it. We are summoners after all, so we get that buddy pretty cheap. And there's the Astral Keeper. He's a mid-combat summon, only 3 turns lasting, can heal people, and the real beauty about him is when he dies, he's also healing people, so put him somewhere where the AI wants to kill these dudes. You will only benefit from them. Since we are rocking the summoning trade, these are also really dirty cheap for your mana count. Wisp Familia is a really amazing trait, and Summoning Wells, well, yeah, you see we have a lot of arcane conduit and thingies going on in that build. The other tier 2, we went for Famists. So that was a surprise hit for me. Usually I am going for tomes that also amplify some sort of ranged attacks at that point, like archers, but this build isn't compatible with that. Here I noticed a pretty big synergy. Staves of Mist, of course, is the most obvious one. Or Cultural Soothers gain another touch heal skill that also buffs our troops, and they also gain Fey Touched as a racial transformation, which will buff us whenever we're in Mist. So Staves of Mist applies that mist on us, so we're not only healing our troops, we're also starting to buff our troops. We also gain spells that allow us to produce mist clouds that will again buff our troops, and debuff the enemy's ability to hit us with melee as well. That is really what I love about this. So generally, this softens the enemy blow, and I really love this one. I want to point out what we usually pick, and it wouldn't be a bad pick either, and that's Mayhem. So I didn't pick up Mayhem here though, because this build is more relying on its elementals than on its battle mages. But there is nothing wrong with this tome. Mark of Misfortune is amazing for this build and will work super good if you go for it. But I figured that Famists is, for one, an interesting alternative, and for another, it's very fitting to the theme of the Naga people. And yeah, it also gives you an extra trick for your summoned arcane dudes. They can also use Fey Blessing, so can your heroes. That's what I really love about that. And in a pinch, you can get those mistlings, which are annoyingly hard to kill and hit quite hard. If you decide to go for mistlings in your roster, you can even utilize the many arrow enchantments this build has, and their ranged attacks should hit like a truck eventually. So, Fey Blessing for your heroes, please don't sleep on it. It is borderline OP. And yeah, Fey Water Ponds, we have even more mana, and our provinces become misty. So we are camouflaged, which is in PvP pretty nasty, but yeah. Tier 3, we go obviously for the Amplification Tome, because Mystic's Amplification Tome, That's just two things that belong together. We gain the ability to crit, we gain the ability to send more battle mages and supporters in frenzy, and we can crank out more knowledge with amplified minds and chain lightning. So yeah, we are really prepared for the Stormborn Tome at that point. Amplification pylon is amazing for this build. We have so much nuke magic. Yeah, it's just fun. Let's leave it like that. And here again, amplified arrows. If you went for Mistlinks, it's useful, but I wouldn't recommend it at all. I'd rather recommend skipping all the arrow enchantments on this build and put your research somewhere else. Now, spell amplification, definitely a worthwhile pick on one of your heroes, and resonance fields are just amazing. Every city should have one, in my opinion, if you can afford it, that is. Now, the other tier 3 tome at this point, as you see here, affinity-wise, the only one that we can pick up is the Tome of the Cold Dark. If you manage to pick up one more Shadow Affinity than the Tome, you can do that by teaching your leader a Shadow signature skill that will gain affinity due to that, or you recruit a hero. Strongly recommend to try getting there, because the Tome of the Cold Dark is an amazing synergy for this build that I didn't really see coming, but it is really good, so hear me out. We got, obviously, access to the snow spirits, the grown-up cousins of our small dudes. They have freezing phase, which is really nasty. They can just get in the middle of things and try to freeze everybody. They can also have a reliable freezing ranged attack now, still obnoxiously long cooldown, but their main takeaway is that they hit like a truck, and they're hard to counter from getting into your enemy and just doing what they want to do. Since we now are no longer relying on evolving the Snow Spirit dudes, we can summon them, and that's already a huge thing for this build, as these guys are excellent kamikaze units. They are just dealing a ton of damage. Frostling transformation is the other thing. We gain a lot of cold resistance, we gain immunity against freezing, and morale on cold terrain, so yeah, good stuff. The freezing immunity is, in my humble opinion, amazing. It is just like that. Yeah, flash freeze. Hey, look, we have another battlefield nuker. This time it alters even terrain. Yeah, more of the same. And marching winter. As you see there, we have a high synergy with Arctic terrain here, and Frostspire just adds a little bit of icing on the cake, pun intended. So, blinding magic is amazing for your heroes. This build has a lot of good reasons to go into a battle magic skill tree for your heroes, as this is really good. Blinding people is really, really powerful. And yeah, Tome of the Cold Dark, what can I say? It's an amazing fit for this build, but if you don't get the third shadow point together, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Tome of Teleportation for this build. Nothing at all. There's only goodness to be found in here. The phase beasts are annoyingly hard to kill. Again, we get them fairly cheap. Seriously, 100 mana for a tier 4 unit. That is just massive. We gain the Astral Trade Relay, which is always good, as this faction can use gold always. And we gain mobility tools, always a lovely thing. And most importantly, chrono gates. So here again, it counts another. We have something that will just fuse all the conduits and research posts that we already spammed on our towns into something extraordinary useful. So there is a massive synergy to be found in the teleportation tome as well. So there's nothing wrong if you didn't go for the icy tome, the Cold Dark. You might even think that this one is not your taste and you just go for teleportation directly. There would be nothing wrong with that either. So let's go finally for the main takeaway, the Stormborn Tome. So yeah, this tome will be good if there's ocean or not. NAGA transformation is what we've been looking for, and here we now gain so many things. This is one of the most bonkers racial transformations that I know about. So let's start with the humble things. Resistances, not bad. Immunity against electrification. By the way, from this point on, your storm elementals, they spread electrifying clouds, are not bothering your troops anymore because they're not going to get electrified. But it gets better as we gain slip away. That means all your units, cultural roster that is, are annoyingly hard to kill. tier 3 battle mages having slip away. That is unfair, but you can pull it off now. You have amphibious, so embarking is no problem anymore, and freaking fast movement. Your entire culture counts as mounted, but you will lose your mounts, and you will lose your leg and mount slots. It's a low price to pay for all the payoff that you get there. This is turning your own cultural units into something else. And since we have a lot of units that benefit from that, White Witches, Evokers, all these dudes, they get that too. Pretty useful stuff, but it gets better. Bounty of the Sea, well, what can I say? It's just double the resource income from your coast things. We have Downpour, and as you see here, that's why I think Swamp Adaptation is also a really, really good fit. We gain also the ability to put downpouring on a province, which makes people wet. And here, the circle closes, as you see. Lightning damage and frost damage. That's the two things that we do, and from that point on, yeah, your units will do so much damage because you are actively lowering the enemy's resistances against the stuff that you do. Yeah, Lightning Storm, what can I say? It's a nice combat enchantment, and it wets the entire battlefield. Go for this. This is amazing for you, because, yeah, no further things needed to say. And we gain another good skirmisher. The Stormbringers are hitting like a truck. They have finally a reliable, massive ranged attack. And yeah, what can I say? All the things that we have are buffing up these things, and Stormport's why we want coast cities. Arcing Weapons is also massively good, as you can get your melee heroes to arc off, and also your physical ranged attackers, but we have that in the amplification tome. From that point on, I'll leave it up to you where you want to go. Obviously, I think you would be shoehorned into one of the tier 4 astral tomes. Nothing bad about that. So, strategy part. First off, this is a bad city. This is a good city. Wherever you want to settle down, you should always try to get a city with a coastal position, as this build thrives upon this. I mean, due to the fact that we can utilize Arctic provinces so well, there's nothing wrong with inland positions either. We can go both ways, but we profit a lot from the ocean positions there. Early on, well, you want to summon as many of the elementals as possible, so research the Storm Spirit thing as fast as possible. Nothing wrong with a Cryomancy start on that build either, to go for the Snow Spirits first. Obviously, both works both ways. You don't need to recruit any Arcanists, any Arcane Guards. We are doing all the frontline business with either tier 2 Culturals or Elementals. We want to have, again, as with all the builds, tier 2 units as fast as we can. Soothers. Get yourself at least one of them down, because you want those cheaper spells, and get yourself a couple of spell shields. 1 or 2 are really good, as they are robust, they help your squad, and you really need that shield wall skill in the long run. You need to buff up the defenses of your units. Without these, you will suffer a lot of beating. If you can't get your hand on a random rock elemental troop like I had the luck here, obviously you can also forego these guys and just take these, but we don't have a native access to these. Now, you want to spam out as many mystic projections as you can early on. Obviously, we're mystics, therefore it's really important. Also, you want to research as quick as you can those tome battle mages. These are much better than the Arcanists. Don't waste your time on Arcanists, in all honesty. What you really want is to explore the world with your mystic projections and spam out as many of the spirits as you can possibly afford to pay for. At the same time, you want to conquer as many nodes as possible to get that income going, and over the course of the time, these guys are where you want to leave your money culture roster wise. Star Purge is just an amazing spell. This allows you to beat pretty much any build that relies on buffing themselves, and Yeah, pretty much every build that you're fighting against is relying one way or another in positive status on positive status effects. Therefore, it's a massive gain. And they can also give you fresh combat casting points. There is only a cooldown on that, so spellbreakers are top notch of the battle mages. The White Witches and the Evokers provide White Witches provide utility in form of the Freezing Blast, but this is growing less and less useful the higher the tier of the enemy. Therefore, these battlefield, these map nukes that lower the enemy's status resistance can be absurdly useful for the White Witches, as we can give them several debuffs that make them more susceptible to freezing. The Evokers, I skip them because the Spellbreakers are just better Evokers. You don't need to go for these. I personally find them pretty replaceable, and therefore, yeah, not much more needed to be said about that. As with all the things that I play, we want our 3 cities as fast as possible, and obviously we want as many astral echoes as we can, because that's just a massive gain here. With the Altar of the All-Seers, you get a massive payout out of these. Now, elemental builds are currently a little bit broken, in my humble opinion. All you need to go for are heroes that have a little bit of a supporty side on them. We obviously benefit absurdly from stuff like Mass Rejuvenation or summoning signature skills, and here again, go for an experienced leader trait, and inspiring leaders also a real useful one. I often skip out on that, but not for this build. First off, experienced leader here is a no-brainer. We can evolve our units faster. It even pays off to retire one hero early with just the experienced leader trait and park them in one of your hinterlands to just have a regiment of baby elementals to train up passively, and he can also roam around and do quests if they pop up in your backwater provinces, and grind a little bit of XP up. But all in all, that's a really valid strategy at that point. The other thing, the inspiring leader trait, is really important because you will get access to a lot of tier 3 units absurdly fast. That's just what it is. If you spam out as many tier 1 elementals as you can, and if you play smartly and keep them all alive, you will quickly have an explosion of upkeep costs. Because tier 3 units really do cost a ton more. But I can only say as much. If you struggle from the costs of your tier 3 units, that only means that you're doing it right. You pay the price for your victory, so to say, in mana. Because this is just, these guys, you gain way too quickly entire rosters of tier 3 units. I mean, look at this. This is not only since turn 45, I have that since a longer period of time already. This is an absurdly powerful early game benefit, but you will need to work on that, and so far as you should really play aggressive with that build. Overrun the enemy, take cities, expand your empire, destroy enemies, because you will fall off eventually, because we don't have that many super strong tier 5 units incorporated in our build. We're mostly around ranged combat, utilizing our elementals and nuking stuff with battlefield magic. And that is not really the most powerful late game state to be. And as much as I like the Archmage book, I personally don't think it is on the same page as other books. Cosmic Overdrive is obviously really good for all of our elementals, but yeah, apart from that, I really gotta say, this build has not the same insane late game as a Necromancer builder. So, anyways, let's end it here. Thanks for watching, you everybody. Drop me your comments, leave me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, check out the description box. I'd be really happy if you'd tossed if you clicked on Discord or Twitch, where I stream regularly and all those things. Check out also Patreon, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee, and there's also a channel membership system that allows you to early view things that I have scheduled for release. And of course, I want to say a big, huge thanks to everybody supporting the channel, and a huge thanks to you, because you are still around at the very end of the video. I really appreciate that. Hope you had a good time, and yeah, stay awesome, you. Bye-bye.